My husband stopped prioritizing us because he found a new family.
Oh, I had to get them. They were on sale.
My husband, John, and I are mid-30s and have been together 8 years. We've been through a lot of big life stressors. It has strained our marriage, and we worked hard in 2 years of marriage counseling to rebuild. By the way, this comes from Dead Acre, and if you want to submit your own stories, go to the r/OKStorytime subreddit. I'm now 8 months pregnant. I'm feeling vulnerable, huge, hormonal, and tired. I'm the primary earner, and my workload has been a lot on top of baby prep. I'm normally a very rational, independent, and sort of non-emotive person. I've never been jealous before, but my husband has a new female friend, Pam, and I'm now jealous and possessive. Even I find it weird. Pam is mid-20s, white, has my husband's preferred physical features, is bubbly, spontaneous, in an open relationship, and into the same hobbies as my husband. I have my own qualities, but I'm pretty much the opposite. John met Pam and liked her immediately. I remember him coming home and telling me how cool she was, and he'd been invited to a hobby event she hosts with her partners. He's been attending that every other weekend for a year. Then, a few months later, he also wanted me to get to know Pam, so we've started having her and her partner Kevin over with some of our other friends on the in-between weekends, so my husband sees them every weekend. To be fair, Pam and Kevin have been really nice and are good friends to John, but there are things I've noticed. Pam always sits next to John. She and John say, "Love you," casually to each other with the group. John is very protective of Pam, and he remembers things she likes and buys her gifts. Nothing pricey, but thoughtful. If for some reason one of those events is canceled, John is noticeably sad. Going even a weekend without seeing them is hard for him. Because of these weekend commitments, we don't do date nights and rush other activities. If I have other plans, then we split up and don't see each other. We're discussing in counseling, but can't come to an agreement. Our counselor facilitates, but doesn't give direct guidance. I've shared that he feels like he's prioritizing this relationship over our own, that I hate that these standing date nights with Pam and her partner trumps our own, that he's not keeping up with commitments to me or the baby, and I'm managing with my own support network of family and paid help, but at 8 months along, I need help, that this needs to change. He's shared that Pam and her partners are part of his new chosen family, since he's had to move away from his family because of me, that I said it was okay for him to spend this time with them, and I can't just change my mind. That is unfair. That he's willing to spend more time with me, but that something else needs to give, either chores for him or me adjusting my work schedule. That he thinks I'm overly sensitive and am only worried because Pam's relationships are open and my insecurities are something I should deal with individual therapy.
I'm just like 8 months pregnant and you're neglecting me.
And you're hanging out with Pam and her polycule.
Yeah, you're neglecting me to get polyculed.
I'm really not sure what a compromise looks like, and counseling seems to just cause us to entrench more. Wondering what advice anyone out there might have. And there are some relevant comments. How do you plan to handle the new upcoming baby? Have you discussed what your schedule will look like then? Since he's going to need to spend a lot of time caring for the child and your schedules will need to change. It seems like the thing to do is to start fresh and decide what things are going to look like once the baby is born. Since you are the primary earner, he should be the primary caregiver, and you both will have less time for socializing. Opie says, we're gonna take a break from social commitments for 2 months and then reevaluate, but he's likely to want to continue to see them at least every other weekend. The compromise to take care of the baby is he's going to stop working to care for baby Monday through Friday, 1 weekend day for our family, and 1 weekend day with Pam and crew for their hobby. I've said in counseling this doesn't seem reasonable. I'm running out of options. Debating calling my husband's dad at this point, who I'm close with and will ebb on my side, but husband will probably lose it if I bring in his dad. Deleted says she's in an open marriage and they say love you to each other in public. He's cheating on you. How does he defend this in therapy? OP says he says it just means love you in a generic, casual way. And when they say it, they mean it to everyone in the group. He says it's the same as when he says love you to male friends he's close with. And I shouldn't read too much into it. I've never said love you to a male friend, even only rarely to female friends. Deleted. Did you tell him it makes you uncomfortable? Opie says, I think my exact words were, it's weird and I hate it, while crying. Second trimester was a fun time. He chalked it up to hormones and we never spoke about it again. I haven't heard them say it in front of me again, but who knows what they text or say when they're together. The Void, you're pregnant with his child? If his passed away friends want to go have a new family, tell him to enjoy that and take him to the cleaners for child support. These gaming nights, is it D&D or something similar? Watch a YouTube channel called Neckbeardia. Get a sobering laugh from listening to the stories of spicy related debauchery that tends to happen in those gatherings. Your husband does not want to be with you anymore. He isn't spicily attracted to you anymore. You married a child who wants to play with others instead of taking care of his offspring. Guys like this make me want to vomit. OP says, ding, 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 Dungeons and Dragons with MTG for good measure.
Magic the Gathering.
Mama Meets says, have you talked to Pam to find out what he's been telling her? I'm disappointed that she hasn't clued in to put a stop to it, but he could be lying to her. After all, you have been part of this social circle too. Is she friendly with you too? I would explain that he's been behaving in ways towards her and in private with you that make you very uncomfortable, and you'd rather communicate openly with her about it. It will give you a better read on it. And best case scenario, it may very well put a stop to it if he had been misleading her. OP says, I only see Pam in a group setting along with other friends, and she's now been introduced to my friend group. We're socially nice to each other, but definitely not close enough to talk directly to each other. And to be honest, neither of us really likes the other. We're very, very different people. And there is an update. Do you think the fact that they're playing D&D changes anything?
Well, it doesn't mean that it's like impossible that there's anything like crazy going on by any means, but like it does certainly like turn it into a coin flip of like, is this dude just like addicted to Magic the Gathering and tabletop role-playing games?
It's a possibility.
Or is he like also infatuated with the idea that Pam could be his wife instead of his actual wife?
Also a possibility.
Yeah, it just adds another wrinkle.
It adds another
I'm
layer.
still like, the fact that your partner has done nothing to sort of ease your mind into like, hey, this like bothers me and I'm concerned by this and I'm uncomfortable by this.
And he's just dismissing.
He's done nothing to address it. It's like, that's a huge red flag.
But there is an update. It's been a while since our little boy is 2.5 now. Whoa.
Okay.
2.5 year jump, folks.
Wow.
Thank you to everyone who commented. It was the punch to the butt I needed to lay down the law. Especially the folks that rightly pointed out I was a passive doormat without self-respect. That stung, but was true. After my post, I had a big sit down with John on the things I was upset about. My husband was traveling to be a groomsman for a good friend. I told him to stay out there for an additional week and decide. 1, if he wanted to stay married and wanted to be a family. 2, if he wanted the above, think about what needed to change on his part. Not just Pam, but other stuff too. How he was going to be a good husband and father going forward. 3, arrange to go over it with me and our marriage counselor on his return. Alternatively, if he didn't do the above, then when he got back, we'd start logistics on separation and co-parenting. And surprisingly, he did all of the above. Apparently, he reflected a lot at the wedding. His friend and wife are so in love and thought a lot about us and our relationship and what he wanted. He came back and proposed changes, immediate break from Pam and company, and stopped their hobby. He'd play some D&D and Magic the Gathering online, but that was it. He'd take over remaining baby prep, nursery, logistics, and promised to lay out a postpartum care plan for me and my baby. He stuck to his word and also worked hard to regain my trust. Then we had our son, and my husband was over the moon in love. He and baby have been inseparable ever since and have amazing adventure-filled life with all the hobbies, baby toddler swim, gym, soccer, co-op, and a great local parent community. After our kiddo was born, Pam lost interest in my husband anyway. She doesn't like kids, and shortly thereafter cheated on her poly relationship. Pam.
Oh, Pam.
Kevin and John have actually become good friends since then, but John is straight, so I have no worries there. And as I've reflected, I think I also just actually hated Pam. She's everything I don't like, relying on men for affirmation, no job, life ambition, frivolous, and stupid. And apparently, according to Kevin, the feeling was mutual. She thought I was a controlling, stuck-up, robotic Ivy League workaholic who didn't appreciate or support my husband's hobbies or quirks. I was also a lot more emotional during pregnancy than normal. My husband, upon reflection, liked being needed and admired. By the way, we would love and admire you if you listen to full episodes of stories just like this that you can find on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or iHeartRadio, and search up OK Storytime. We had a lot to work through with us, but 2 years later, we're in a great spot. I also had a weird shift in hormones postpartum, which made my spicy sleep drive really, really high, which for us helped a lot with our relationship.
Turned me into an improviser.
Didn't want this to be too long, but there were a lot of changes we implemented to get back to a loving place. John feels a lot of purpose in being a dad and supported me as my career has taken off. Sometimes things are still hard. My job is really high stress. Toddlers are a lot of work, etc., but we're pretty happy. We spent this morning snuggling in bed with our toddler and dog, pretending we were on a boat, making hairdryer sounds and giving hugs. We live a pretty boring suburban kind of life, but it works for us. Thanks everyone for the push for me to stand up for what I wanted and needed. And folks, that's the end of that story. Sometimes there are happy endings. Okay?
We love to see it.
Sometimes there are happy endings.
My husband bought a new car despite our financial struggles.
Sell it.
My 31 female husband, 32 male, bought a car today after we had specifically agreed to wait to purchase it. We spoke last night about our finances and how he's currently trying to pay off credit card debt that he accumulated. By the way, this comes from user Satan Socks, and if you want to submit your own stories, go to the r/OK Storytime subreddit. He had mentioned wanting to buy an electric vehicle.
Ooh.
And I told him that a car payment would basically give him very little wiggle room once the bills are paid. To top it off, I just took out a $15,000 loan to replace our AC system that needs to be replaced. Like I said, we had talked about it last night, to which he says to me, "You're right. I should wait to pay off my debt before buying a car." I felt relieved and figured that was the end of the conversation. Fast forward to this morning, he tells me he purchased the car he wanted online. I'm shook because what? We just talked about this. He tells me he doesn't feel like waiting and he's making a choice for the family. I called BS. Yeah, what are you on your Walter White being like, I did this for the family? No, you're doing it for you.
Yeah, you did that absolutely for you.
I said I felt extremely disappointed and disregarded. A vehicle purchase is a big deal in my opinion.
In most people's opinions.
Factually, it's a big deal.
Also, it doesn't even seem like this was like a vehicle that was used or anything. It seems like a new vehicle that he bought online, which probably means he bought it for like full price.
Who knows, dude? The only time a vehicle purchase isn't a big deal is if the money it takes to buy it is literally unnoticeable and unfelt. He said, I was wrong for overreacting, and he's now more or less ignoring my text. He says it's not a big deal to buy a car and basically minimized the entire situation. I am quite literally fuming. My mom was kind enough to call me an idiot for not considering a divorce. Am I wrong? Are big purchases like that normal for other couples? I feel nauseous and stuck, and I don't know how to come to terms with something like this. To add, this is not the first time I've been disregarded, but it's the first time I'm questioning whether my reaction is not the correct one. Relevant comments here. Number 1, he is a selfish butt. That's a huge purchase that should be agreed upon. Making a choice for the family, no, my guy. He's being a controlling wiener, and from the sounds of it, financially irresponsible. If your mom is telling you divorce, well, she would know better than us. OP says, thank you so much for your insight. I appreciate it. For a second there, I was questioning my sanity. Comment 2 says, you're 100% right, but let him find out. I hope you have a separate bank accounts. Let him live with his family choice. OP says, I appreciate you for your reply. Yes, we do have separate accounts, thankfully. Comment 3, did he factor in charging it at your home, or is that something you already have? OP says he broke the news to me through text, so I'm not 100% sure what his game plan is, but it's not something we have at home.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry.
Why is that even a question?
He broke the news to you that he bought a car online through text? He was like, hey, babe, I bought a car on Toyota.com.
Comment number 4, info. Does he already have a car? If so, is it old and falling apart and needs to be replaced? Was it sold, or can it be sold to help offset the new car? What's the story behind the $15,000 loan? Did you both discuss this, or did you decide by yourself? Was this AC unit absolutely necessary to replace, or did you only want to replace it? By that, I mean, are summers in your area brutal or just hot? Arizona heat is brutal where an actual AC is necessary, but in New York, you can survive with just a $50 room fan. OP says, unfortunately, last summer we had to fix the AC 3 times, and it was the 3rd year that it broke down. When we went to turn on the heat in the winter, it didn't work either. We have brutal desert heat, so we had decided to use our tax refund to replace the AC, since we had tried time and again to fix it. Obviously, a replacement was more than our tax refund, so I took out a personal loan to cover the rest of the cost. He has a car and a truck, but he also has a commute. I told him I completely understood his need to save on gas, but I really wanted him to pay off his credit card debts beforehand. I was under the impression we were on the same page, but apparently not. OP responds to a question regarding her hopes for her marriage. OP says, this is a strangely difficult question, but thank you for asking it. I think I went into this marriage expecting a partnership, but I was aware that he is his own person with his own opinions, likes, and ways of being. I don't want to control him, but I don't want to be taken advantage of either. I knew there would be hurdles and difficulties. I don't want to be petty, and that's why my mom is upset with me. I'm a walking bag of insecurities, and I'm just trying to find a clear path. I'm ranting. I apologize, but thank you for giving me something more to consider. I appreciate it. And there is an update. To be honest, since my post a year ago, my life has more or less crumbled. My husband and I have divorced, and it was finalized just this past month. Yay?
Okay.
Yay!
Okay.
Maybe good though? Everything feels almost like a blur, and I don't think I've really sat down and fully processed everything that happened. Some context I didn't add to my last post. My ex and I do have 2 children. He did also have a second job at this time. His work schedule was as follows. Day job was 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. and night job was from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. I absolutely hated his work schedule. He was barely ever home and he was always tired, and he didn't spend much time with the kids. But his finances were pretty crap and he was drowning himself in debt. Man, you can't do both of those things.
No.
That's wild. This was a point of contention for me because I had already helped him to get out of credit card debt several times, but he always managed to rack the card back up.
On.
At the time he bought the card, I had taken out that $15,000 loan for the AC, and I had told him we had a year to pay it off interest-free. This became, in my opinion, the beginning of the end. He quickly told me that he couldn't help me pay anything towards the AC because his Tesla payment was $1,000 per month? And then it happened. 2 months into having his car, he totaled it. It took months for the insurance to process his claim, but he had to continue making the payments. All the while, I had sent more than half of what little I had in savings so that I could finish paying off the AC before the year was up. On top of all this, I had taken on the role of super mom. I was beyond exhausted. All of the household chores became my responsibility as well as caring for our children. Thankfully, my parents were a great help to me during this time and would watch my youngest child while I worked during the day. At the time, my youngest wasn't even a year old yet. Eventually, everything started falling apart at the seam. We argued a lot because we were both so exhausted. Our finances were horrific. I remember looking at my bank account and I only had $34 in it. My eldest cried to my mom one day while I was at work and said she was sad that I never played with her because I was always cleaning or cooking or working. She asked my mom if I still loved her because I never spent time with her because I was always so busy. I bawled my eyes out that day when my mom told me, and I started to realize that things weren't working. I kept trying to communicate that I needed help and that I was tired and that I couldn't live like this anymore. And eventually, crap hit the fan, and I felt like it was a sign that our marriage was doomed. It was done. I said to him, I'd rather divorce you now while I still love and respect you than later down the road when we hate each other and then we damage our kids along the way because we're so angry. After some back and forth, he agreed and I filed everything myself. I also emptied out whatever savings I had to pay for all of the fees. I have since then moved in with my parents and I rent a room in their house. The divorce was as drama-free as we could possibly make it. We get along pretty well and have decided to keep a civil relationship for our kids. One thing that I did find hilarious in this entire situation was that our divorce was finalized on April 1st. When I got the paperwork, I told him, dang, even the legal system thought our marriage was a joke. He didn't laugh though. By the way, you know what's not a joke is that you can listen to full episodes with stories just like this on Spotify and iHeartRadio and Apple Podcasts and wherever you listen to podcasts.
That's just true.
Just search OK Storytime and you can listen to over 60 days worth of story. I can breathe a little easier, but I can say with 100% certainty that I have a lot to process and I need to put some serious work into myself as a person. I don't wish ill upon my ex. I hope he lives the life he chooses to the fullest. We want different things in our lives and our priorities did not match. Still, I hope he finds happiness. Anyhow, that's my update. Thank you guys for reading. Take care of yourselves out there. TLDR, we divorced. We have some relevant comments here to finish it off. OP on her husband working himself to death with 2 jobs. OP says, yes, I agree. I never wanted him to get a second job. He kept insisting that he didn't make enough, but once he got the second job, his spending also went up. It was a vicious cycle, and I was always so worried because his health got worse along with his finances. He worked the day job 5 days a week and the night job 4 nights a week. Commenter 1 says, it was a Cybertruck, wasn't it? OP says, oh dear God, no. Sadly, it wasn't because he thought it was ugly. It was because he couldn't afford the monthly payments. Commenter 2 says, please tell me you're not legally on the hook for his credit card or car debt. OP says, no, I'm not. Woo! He never had a doubt that the debt he accumulated was his own doing, and he took responsibility for it. What's sad is that in the past, I had brought his credit card to 0 3 years in a row, but his behavior never changed. OP on her ex's progress after the divorce. OP says, thank you so much for your kind words. It means a lot to me. My ex quit his night job, actually. He now spends way more time with the kids, and he's fully realizing just how overwhelming it really is. I don't think he'll ever fully appreciate the amount of work I took on, but I've come to the realization that I can't force him to appreciate anything. He has to grow on his own, and only he can take that journey. Commenter 3 says, I think you'll find in a few more years your trajectory will impress express the you of today. You were anchored and now you are not. You had no help and now you have your parent. OP says, you can't imagine how much of a loser I felt for asking to move back in, but I'm keeping my head up and hoping for the best. And that is the end of that story. And you know what? Moving back in with your family and that being like a shameful thing in Western culture is like weird because it's not like that literally anywhere else. Literally
Super
everywhere
common,
else on the face of the earth. It's like
You got
a
kids.
normal thing you can do.
Yeah, they want to help out with your kids.
Like,
That's
oh,
a good thing.
you're going to go back and live with the people who raised you and took care of you your whole childhood? Only in like America, Western society.
That's the end of that story, and we're going to get into the next one. I discovered my wife and friend in a very suspicious position.
They were playing Twister with no clothes.
This is not a clear-cut cheating story, so,
All right, okay, so
I'm truly at a loss.
So it's definitely not Twister with no clothes.
No.
Okay.
My wife and I have been married for 15 plus years with kids. About 2 years ago, we started hanging out with this other couple we met through our school. We've gotten really close. I consider the guy my friend, and my wife also hangs out with his wife. When the four of us hang out with our families, there's usually a good amount of booze involved. By the way, this comes from Throwaway 80812. And if you want to submit your own stories, go to the r/OKStorytime subreddit. The event in question happened right before Mother's Day, and I still haven't digested it. We were hanging out with the other couple, as usual, when my wife went to the kitchen with a guy to refill their drinks. I had a mostly full glass and was looking pretty comfy on the couch, still talking to the other wife, when I decided to go join them in the kitchen for whatever reason. When I got there, I saw my wife with her back against a wall, laughing, with my friend leaning over her, his mouth maybe kissing her neck or really close to it. They were both pretty wasted. I immediately screamed, "What the F is going on?" They jumped apart, looking shocked to see me, and my wife kept saying she could explain.
She's like, I can explain. We were about to make out.
It was like out of a crappy Lifetime movie. We were all talking over each other, and then I started heading to the car, grabbing my kids on the way. I was about to leave her, but she climbed in the passenger seat anyway. I wasn't going to punt her out of the car with our kids in the back, so we drove home in silence. When we got home, my wife started crying. She told me that this is what happened. Weeks ago, he started doing random small things around her while we all hung out if my and his wife's back was turned. He would grab her hand or touch her hair. The most they spoke about it was that she said he should really stop doing these things, but then kept letting him or finding ways to be alone momentarily with him. She claims they never communicated by text or phone call, never met up, and never even kissed, except on her neck, I guess. In retrospect, I do think he was subtly flirting with her, but I thought at the time that it was the usual gentle teasing we would all do as friends. I asked her if they were going to kiss that night if I hadn't caught them, and she says she's not sure, but she may have let him. She says she's not even physically attracted to him, but enjoyed the validation she got from him putting these moves on her. She has had a long history of requiring a lot of reassurance that she's attractive and that I am still into her. She immediately let me have her phone and searched through it. I didn't find any text between them. I asked her if this would have led to spicy sleep, and she adamantly said no. The worst thing then was that I asked her if she had fantasized about him when she was with me or getting herself off. She said no to thinking of him while with me, but admitted yes to thinking of him when alone.
Okay, so like this is like the equivalent of like asking the bank robber, like, were you planning on stealing the gold? And they go, no. Were you planning on stealing the silver? No. Were you planning on stealing the bags full of pennies? Yeah, that's all I was going to take. I was just taking bags full of pennies. That was all I was planning on doing. So please don't use any assumptions that I was going to steal the gold. You can't.
Yeah.
Don't assume that. I was only going for pennies.
You have no
Old
proof.
Abe Lincolns.
Needless to say, I'm cutting off all contact with my friend. I told my wife I'm thinking about divorce, and she's begging me to reconsider. She's telling me we will go to counseling. I can track her location, all the things. This really sucks. I don't know how I can get past this betrayal. I don't know how I can trust her again, but I also don't know how I can leave what I thought was an amazing marriage and give our kids a broken home without attempting to try to work through this. I can't talk to any of my friends or family about this because it makes me sick, and I feel embarrassed that I let this happen. It's been hard pretending to be happy on Mother's Day for the sake of our kids. I can't sleep, have barely eaten, I can't concentrate at work. At home, my wife just cries all the time. What the F do I do? And edit. I just want to clarify one point since I have had many comments addressing this. We do not drink and drive. One of us is usually the DD and has like one glass of wine with food, while the other three get a little sloshed. Just needed to say this so people don't keep assuming we're putting kids in danger. I was not drinking the night this happened, and I'm sorry for not clarifying this before. And there is an update.
I mean, it sounds like whatever your issue your wife has in terms of like needing that assurance or reassurance, it sounds like it's something you're already aware of. Counseling, couples therapy for that first. If you have kids, if you're just dating, I'd be like, it's over. But it's like, it's always more complicated when the kids are involved.
Absolutely.
And I don't even know. I don't know if that's right or wrong. It's just how I feel about it. It's like, you have to consider these other variables if you want to just break it down into science.
I think my thought on it is that OP should absolutely go through all the possibilities and stuff. But I think at the end of the day, it's like, do you think it's possible for you to regain any of that trust back? And if you don't think so, after you've gone to therapy, then you're allowed to say like, yeah, I don't think I can ever forget this moment. Sorry, it's taken me a while to get back to this. It's been really busy, as you can imagine. I appreciate all the support and advice for this difficult situation. Shortly after the original post, I did reach out to the other wife, asking if we could meet in person or at least talk on the phone to see if the stories matched. She's pretty much responded with a version of, we are planning on moving forward as a family and talking about it with you will not be conducive to that process for us. She wished me peace or some BS, and then both of them blocked both of us. I know there's other ways to contact them, but I'm not going to be that guy. We decided to start marriage counseling and have an appointment set up this week. I also finally convinced my wife to get therapy for her issues as well, but her appointment isn't until later in June. She is still being transparent and asking whatever question I have about anything. She is still maintaining that all she would ever do is flirt and a few touches here and there while we were all hanging out and would never have met up with him outside. She says she enjoyed the thrill of being found desirable by someone that was taboo. It got to her head. I looked through her phone many times again, more thoroughly, and I didn't find any deleted texts, apps, etc. I even looked at websites on how to catch cheating on phones and followed their advice on how to search. I hate to disappoint most of you who commented, but I am trying to give her this benefit and move forward with our marriage for now, as she has been an amazing wife otherwise. I do know that I may never have 100% of the truth. I'm not an idiot. I don't trust her fully, but maybe one day I can get there. Here's the tricky part. Our kids are in the same elementary school as theirs, and my wife is involved in the PTA. So there's a guarantee we will run into this family that's awkward. It's actually pretty surreal to go from being such good friends to no contact. My wife has begged me to not divulge any of this to anyone at the school or mutual friends, as she doesn't want our kids to lose friends or our family to be stigmatized. I mean, I do think that's a good idea. If you're planning on trying to work through this, don't tell everyone at school, because they're going to make their own judgments and they're going to be like, oh, why are you staying with her? Or,
Because it might be out of your hands when you have the other half, when it's going to be him, his partner, which I'm sure he's spinning being caught in his own way, which is now going to, who knows? But it's like,
sure.
It's a big deal to switch schools, but
that should be last resort. I do see her point about that, but I did follow your advice and spoke to a couple of my best friends from before about what transpired. They were shocked she would do this, but supportive when I told them I'd try to forgive her. I'm thinking of getting a therapist, though. I still don't want to tell anyone in my family because they can keep grudges and would use this against her forever. By the way, you can use your favorite podcast app to listen to episodes of stories just like this. Just go to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or iHeartRadio and search OK Storytime. But there is a little bit left to this story. It's complicated, that's for sure. But it seems like you guys are trying to work this out, which is totally fair. You have kids. I think don't be hard on yourself. Like if you find out that you cannot go back to the way things were. Like if you reach a certain point where you're like, I have tried, I put in all the work and I still can't trust her. I still can't regain any of that, love that we had before. That is okay. Finally, I'm sorry I made the original post seem like we were all booziacs or something, but that's really not the case. We would get together and drink 2 to 3 times a month, and it was our main social drinking outlet. We would have maybe 3 to 4 drinks each, except for the one who was the DD. We don't drink when it's just the 2 of us, except for date nights. We don't do devil's lettuce or other substances. I just mentioned the booze to give context that we were both under the influence when this happened, not to give an excuse or serve as the focus of the story. Thank you again for all the comments. It was helpful to have a place to go to initially for this crap before I was ready to talk to people. It still feels like my life is turned upside down, and I still am hoping it's all a bad dream. But I think I've accepted it better now. And folks, that's the end of that story and the end of this episode.